Ann Hunt. I work for Mayor Chris Coleman. I am a political appointee, so that's probably a little different than some of the rest of you that may be regular city staff people. Mayor Coleman was elected and took office in January of 2006, and his predecessor had not agreed to sign the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. That was one of the issues that was discussed, I think, during the campaign. And during the campaign, the mayor did pledge to hire a sustainability coordinator, which is moi. So one of the first official things that the mayor did do, actually it was our first official press conference on February 1st, was sign the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. We did do something a little bit different. We had our full resolution that passed through the entire city council and was unanimously supported by the city council. We had members of the community, some of our community partners there, and Will Steger was also there to kind of highlight and be kind of the eyewitness to global warming. So that was kind of a significant step. Since then, we've been really trying to work on kind of getting what I call getting our house in order. Meaning that we've been working with the White Group, Tom McDougall, and the White Group and Xcel Energy on trying to determine what our buildings look like, the city-owned buildings. We did have, and Tom will talk about it, there's the computerized system. We entered in the data about 84, I think, buildings that the city owned that were over 5,000 square feet. And of those, we've identified almost 50 of them that need some kind of energy improvements. So that's where our kind of quandary came. We knew that we were spending a lot of money. The city spends about $11 million annually on fuel costs, natural gas, and electricity. I think $8.5 million is natural gas and electricity. So there was big opportunities to save some money. We knew that the stories of the St. Paul schools had done. They had already saved $1 million in their operations. And so we knew that there was a big, huge opportunity, but we kind of had a chicken and an egg. And if you haven't read the paper, if you don't read the St. Paul Pioneer Press paper, we hadn't raised taxes in St. Paul in over 10 years. We had a $16 million structural deficit, meaning that we had expenses going out more than revenues were coming in. We had not gotten in this most recent round, the governor vetoed the tax bill, which included another $9 million in local government aid to the city of St. Paul. So our situation was kind of bad. This is what you wanted me to tell you.
Move on to the bad part, too.
Well, I mean, you know, you have, and I think some cities are going to be facing these same things. You have a really, you have the political will. In our case, we had the political will from the elected officials, both the mayor and the city council. We had staff in the public works department and in the parks department. Cy is here from the parks department. They knew that the buildings were energy inefficient. They wanted to do something better. They didn't want to keep sending out checks to Xcel. We have, it's nearly, I think, 1,000 different bills that we get from Xcel Energy. It's staggering. So, so one of the things, like with the Parks Department, we had a lot of the almost 50 buildings, the majority of them were the Parks Department. For the city of St. Paul's budget, 2/3 of our budget is spent on police and fire. And most of that is in salaries, and so it's in labor costs. And so trying to figure out how are we going to be able to help the Parks Department out and the libraries be able to finance the energy upgrades was one of the challenges. So what we ended up doing was we self-financed it, basically, but we took some money from our reserve funds from a sewer fund. So thank you to the Public Works Department because they had the reserve fund. And it took us a bit to try to work through that, and we didn't really get it all done until probably early this summer, about the mechanism to set up the financing. So basically the departments will be able to borrow money from this sewer fund. They're going to have to pay it back. And we're asking them right now to pay it back with a 25% cap on the top of it so that we can not only pay the sewer fund back, but then able to grow this fund. When I was kind of researching what other cities were doing around the country, you know, that one of Ann Arbor, Michigan is kind of the one that was set up as really a big example. I think they had money that they had gotten from oil overcharge money initially, so in the late 70s, early 80s. And Duluth was similar from that too. We'll probably hear more about that. Phoenix, Arizona was also similar. They had taken money that they had gotten from the oil overcharge money and put that and established a fund, and then they were charging interest rates back to their department so they were able to grow the fund. I think that Toronto, Canada has pledged last year $30 million to upgrade their public buildings. That's mostly ice rinks and curling. Yeah, they have a lot of those in admit we just started with $1 million over a 4-year period, so it's $250,000 a year that the city's pledged to put into this fund to be able to do it. I don't know, we haven't done enough buildings to really say is $1 million going to be enough, but that was what we kind of started with. We've started on doing some, we also put out an RFP to hire a recommissioning person last year. We hired somebody in January to work with our city departments and really go incrementally through all of the buildings and do the recommissioning studies and then do the upgrades. We're pledging to do about 8 to 10 buildings a year. I think this year we'll just get about 8 done. They were listed in the handouts. We have 2 buildings. The other significant thing is that the mayor and the council did agree that we could do any upgrades that would pay for themselves in 10 years or less. So that gives us a really pretty big window. So it's more than just doing the lighting retrofits, which are kind of the easiest and the low-hanging fruit. This will enable us to really try to get at the mechanical systems, the HVAC, heating, ventilation systems. It doesn't mean that if there was a recommendation that would say we figured it would have a 12 or 13-year payback, that we couldn't do it. It just means that I or the building manager will have to go to the city council and get an approval to do that upgrade. So that's kind of the overview of it. I guess I have 1 more minute. You know, right now I think we've started with a couple of rec centers that are mostly having like a 4 to 6 year payback. Linwood Rec Center's one over in St. Clair in the Summit Hill neighborhood. We've done that. We did have a public works building that we're doing, and I think it's only going to have a 2-year payback. So we'll know a lot more information probably this time next year. I mean, one of the good things that we also did for the city was, even with our tight budget opportunity, we are posting a new job for an energy coordinator. And so if anybody wants to know about that, they can get it. The applications are actually due today, 4:30 today. It was kind of a struggle in our tight budget situation. We realized that we really need an operations person, somebody that's going to be working with and doing all the monitoring and tracking that we talked about before, and really getting a handle on our utility bills, being able to track all the data that we're collecting off of these buildings, work with the building managers in the buildings, also do work on public education pieces, and then hopefully when they get that done, they'll be able to have more opportunities to kind of work with some of our community partners like Fresh Energy or Diana McCune here from the Green Institute with the local CERTS program. So